Hello. Okay. And welcome to the Friend Leigh Show. I am your friend and host. No, I do that always. I always do that wrong. I am your host and friend, Lee. But I always want to start with friend because that's my whole goal of this whole thing is I want us to have a space where we really feel like we have a friend circle. And that's what we're creating here on the Friend Leigh Show. So I'm glad that you're here. Um, as always, I will not know that you're here watching unless you actually comment. So if you want me to know that you're here, please do so. And this episode is going to be one of our live shows where I am going to share a little bit more information in the top end, and then we will do more of the comments and going back and forth at the latter half, only so then the people that are listening to it strictly in audio, hello. You have just a little bit of a better experience than our regular Wednesday nights, which are always my favorite because Wednesday nights, that is completely community based. And that is where we share our comments, our experiences, our stories back and forth. And we really get some good conversation going. Oh, this is so exciting. Hello, Jan. Look at that. I can see you. So you gave StreamYard your permission. So way to go, woman. I'm so glad you're here. Okay, so for this episode, it is Valentine's night as we are recording, and which means that it's going to be Valentine's Day tomorrow. You may be listening to this on the audio version on Valentine's Day. That's when it'll probably be going out. Or who knows? It could be June. Doesn't matter. Uh, but what I wanted to talk about is love and why it's important, what it's all about. Is it necessary? Can we live a life without feeling that, sharing that, receiving that? And the answer is yes, we can. Can we thrive? No, we cannot. Just like community, we can physically live without community, but it is awful. It is awful, and our nervous system is dysregulated. There's so much that's affected by it. So I just wanted to talk about it. And Valentine's Day, it brings up so much for so many. And you might be in a loving, committed relationship right now and you're like, "Oh no, it's wonderful." But you could think back to times when you were like, "Oh gosh, it's all the hearts and red and love." And it depends on where we're at, what season we're in, how we look at this Hallmark holiday. And that's all that it is. However, it's a really good excuse for everybody to be thinking more about it. And so that's why I want to talk about it today. So, um, one of the things that I want to start with is the question, can you be in love? Like, can somebody love you without you loving yourself? Right? Because you hear a lot like, you have to love yourself before you will find the love of your life, or you have to love yourself before anybody could ever love you. And that is actually not true. That is just not true. You can loathe yourself and people can still love you. But here is the trick. Here is why that saying it's it's inaccurate, but it makes sense because this is what they're trying to get at. You can be loved if you don't love yourself, but you won't receive it if you don't think that you're lovable. So if you don't love yourself, the only reason why you don't love yourself is because you don't think you're lovable. Because and I'm going to these episodes, when I'm like giving a little bit more information, it's going to sound like a little bit more preachy, but you guys know this is either coming from my own experience or it's coming from something that I researched or read or whatever it is. And this whole episode, this whole podcast, I'm just going to always give this disclaimer at the beginning and then through the podcast is that I am not a doctor. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a professional in any way. Well, I'm a professional kitchen designer, so that I am. But when it comes to, human dynamics and psychology and all of that, I am not a professional, but I am your friend. And I think the biggest thing that we need to do as friends is share what we know, share our experiences, share what we know to be true, and be open to be able to change that. Open to, as we have conversations, like I may say things, and I hope that I say things tonight that then you think about tonight and tomorrow. And then you come back to the show on Wednesday and you say, you know what, I actually didn't agree with what you said. And we have a conversation about that, and it may change what I think about it. And that is what's really, really, I think, the coolest part about being a human is that we're able to change if we're open enough to it. So that's what all this is going to be. This is always my opinion or what I have learned. And even what I've learned, you guys, might be wrong or might not be accurate or whatever it is. Where do you find the majority of our learning is online, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it's true, might be outdated. So that's why the Wednesday shows are so important to me. So what I do know to be true is that if we don't love ourselves, ultimately it comes because we don't believe we're lovable. It's that simple. So it can come to, I'm not worthy, I whatever. You can fill in the blank of like the reasons why, but ultimately the reason why you don't love yourself is because you just don't believe that you're lovable. So how could you possibly love yourself, right? If you knew that you were lovable, you would love yourself, because that's what we all are meant to do. We are all meant to love ourselves and love everybody around us, right? So that's why it's so important for us to be able to love ourselves. That's why when we're talking about happy, the 5-letter acronym, health, and then affection for ourselves. That's why it's so important to show ourselves that we love ourselves and not just say, yeah, I love myself. Because I said that for years and realized I wasn't showing myself that I loved myself. I was doing a lot of things, especially not keeping my promise to myself. That was basically telling me that I don't trust myself. I don't love myself. I don't care for myself. I negated sleep. If I needed to get things done, it was, oh, I just won't sleep, but I'll get this done for you, right? Like I'll do this work for you. I'll show up for you, and then I will not show up for me. And that is, if you did that to your spouse or to your parent or to your child, as much as we do that to ourselves, they would feel like you don't love them. And so that's what happens with us. Our subconscious is like, well, I'm not lovable because you're not loving yourself. And what we're learning in book club, we are reading this book, which has been so powerful. It's called How to Be the Love You Seek. So it's ways for us to break our cycles, find peace, and heal our relationships, but mainly with ourselves. So right now, we're like just at the beginning of the book, and it's really talking a lot about how, our subconscious and our nervous system all kind of was programmed before the age of 6 or 7. I don't know what it was, 6 or 7. And so there are times that like you could have been raised in a really loving household, and they meant well. But the way that you interpreted it as a child wasn't loving. And so you've had scarcity, you had fear, you had whatever these things may be. And then that we learn, and then we carry that for the rest of our lives. But then if you don't realize that this was an issue, you're just carrying it as a way of being. So the other thing that they talk about is that the relationships that we get into in our adult years are based on how we were raised in those first formative years, in the first 6, 7 years, where you saw how love is portrayed, you know? So whether that was, the silent treatment or abuse or whatever it is, even though rationally we can look at that and be like, well, that is screwed up. That's not love, right? Like as an adult, you can see that. But as a child, you don't know. So you think that's love. And then your subconscious actually wants to keep you safe. And even though it doesn't make sense as an adult, that you know that that's not safe, that comfort is safe to your nervous system. And that's why we keep attracting these relationships that we don't want. So doing all of that work, it's not easy. I'm like not even at the beginning. I'm right at the beginning. I'm not even like through it. I'm not in it. And I've been working on it for quite a few years. But I know that this is a lifelong journey of this work. And one of the things that I really want you to know, whether you listen to me or any other person that you listen to that you get advice from, is that I want you to figure out what you need for you and be looking at the end goal of what you want. So here's, oh, shoot. Okay. So Jan is saying that she can't hear me. So I am going to just keep talking and I'm going to look at my audio and make sure that that you can hear it. Jan, I think it might be on your end because it looks like, unless somebody else can let me know that you also cannot hear me, which you wouldn't be able to. So I'm going to just put in here, can you hear me? Okay, so I just put it as a comment there because it is possible. It is possible that something's wrong with my audio. It says that it's working. So Jan, I'm not sure if that's just you or everybody. So I'll keep going and then please let me know if it's actually my audio or Jan's. Okay, so squirrel, and now I'm not sure where I left off, but I want you to make sure that whatever advice you get from anybody or anything that you take in, that you kind of look at it against what you need and look at the end goal of what you're trying to achieve. So if you're trying to achieve peace in your life, like if that's what you're looking to do, then maybe like rehashing your past and doing that to blame other people, that's not going to give you peace. But looking at your past to see why you do the things that you do now, so then you can alter it and say, "Hey, that doesn't serve me anymore. Hey, I'm a grown up with I can regulate my nervous system now and I can look at life differently now." Then that's useful. But looking at our past just to look at our past and blame our parents or blame whatever happened, that's not going to help us, right? So anyway, that's totally an aside, but it all is very closely linked to our love and the love that we feel, the love that we share, the way that we receive it, whether we think that we are worthy of receiving it. It all kind of plays in. So tomorrow, I'm really hoping that we're going to have a conversation with how you guys feel about all of this stuff that we're talking about. Um, a couple of the things that I did while I was looking kind of at research about love, I was looking at, different types of love, which was interesting. And I will go through like a few of those because depending on what articles you're looking at or what psychology you're looking at, there's all kinds of different types of love. There's different ways that they classify love. But there was one article that I was looking at that I thought was good. It had 8 different types of love, but the ones that I really want to share with you, there was okay, so let me just kind of go back here. So there was eros love, which is passionate love, right? So we know what that is. That's kind of like the thrilling intoxication, like lusty kind of love. Then there's pragma love, which is enduring love. This is like practical love. So a marriage can have enduring love, but even you can have like, and that's like the duty and the commitment, but you can actually have that without having like the romantic part of it. But the one that I wanted to show, and then there's playful love, which is ludus love, I guess. These are all, I think, the Latin terms of it. But there's agape, which is universal love. And this one I want to talk about tremendously tonight because I didn't know what the word of it was. Okay. So I didn't know, and I'm Catholic. I should know because that's one of our things. But agape is selfless love. So I'm just going to read it to you guys. Okay. This is like the kind that you might associate with saintly figures like Mother Teresa or activists like Malala. And Hallett, this is one of the researchers here, describes this love as a compassionate love for everyone, also known as universal loving kindness. It's the love you feel for all all living things without question, that you extend knowingly without expectations for anything in return. It's a very pure and conscious love. It's similar to what we sometimes refer to as unconditional love. So, feeling the agape flowing through your veins, you might want to practice a loving kindness meditation and lean into work that allows you to give back and help others. The reason why I want to talk about this one is because during Valentine's Day and during this kind of love fest, people only, well, not only, but a lot of the time, people associate love with a significant other, with a partner. And that is obviously, yes, that is a big part of love, right? That's one type of love. But you can have love, you can have familial love of like your family. You can have love that you really love your friends. But this agape, this unconditional, just universal love is what I really do believe that we're meant to be, that we're here to have that universal love. And the more that we can have that for everyone around us, it makes it easier for us to have that for ourselves. And it's easier for us to not feel alone when we have that. That's something that I actually don't really try hard. I just tend to express my love for people a lot more openly. And I think that I can attribute that to my parents because my parents were my mom in particular was very loving to everybody around her. And so I was really lucky that I grew up with that as a role model and as a model of what universal love could look like. Um, and I think that if we could look at it like just an unconditional because something is living, whether it's an animal or a plant or a tree or a person, just the fact that they are alive is they are worthy enough of our love. And if it's sometimes harder, right, to do that for a person that maybe has wronged you in your eye or maybe done something that has hurt you. And it's harder to have that. But like a cute little dog comes up to you, the majority of us, we have that unconditional love for that puppy, right? We need to start having that for people around us. So, some easy examples of us being able to express that love is just by smiling at people and making eye contact with people. I'll give you a really kind of cool example. We were in Cleveland, Mike and I, this weekend. We were at a bar and we were waiting because we were going to the bar to eat. And so there were a lot of us. They had to get like a big table. And so it was actually like an hour and a half before we got our table. So they were like, just go downstairs to the bar and, hang out there while you wait, which was really smart because a lot of the guys were drinking. So it was good. Mike and I weren't. So we went and we sat in this like it was like a church pew. It was really weird, but there was a church pew that was right off of the restrooms. And so I was talking to Mike, but I was facing the restrooms, and every person that came out, I didn't make eye contact with every one of them, but I did look up to make eye contact, that if they looked down at me, I was looking at them and then I could smile at them. And I felt that's very natural for me. So then if they smiled, I would smile and say, "Oh, have a good night," whatever, and just like have that like little interaction. I was still paying attention to Mike. And Mike was like, "Well, people are looking at you and smiling because you're looking at them. You're making them look at you by you making eye contact." And I was like, "That's actually not true because probably, I don't know, 50% of the people, I didn't do like an actual survey, but I'd say like 50% of the people that walk by did not look down. They just kept walking and were going to their table or whatever." So, but I wanted to make myself available to have that connection with somebody that was going by. And what was cool is, so that happened and he was like, "Oh, okay. Yeah." I mean, you would think he would be used to this by now because I do this all the time when we're out, but it just so happened that there were a lot of people that were walking in and out, right, of the bathrooms. So then we went to go and see everybody at the bar, to go and see like how the timing was. And this gal that was standing at the bar, like there was like 2 tiers and she was at the upper tier. She said something to Mike about he was wearing a Michigan jersey, I think. We were in Ohio. And so she said something about who are you voting? Who are you rooting for in the Super Bowl? And he's like, "Oh, probably Casey and who are you who why do I keep saying voting? Who are you rooting for?" And she's like, "Well, I'm from California, so I'm going to be." So that little, and I didn't look up at her cuz I was turning the corner to go to the bar. So I didn't get to look at her, but she made a point of having this conversation. And it was really cool for me because I got to be on the receiving end of starting a conversation with a stranger. Well, it turned out that she is absolutely amazing. We ended up having probably like a 15-minute conversation with her. We got to know her. There's a lot of like similarities. Truly, if we ever go to California, I am going to be looking her up. We're now friends on Instagram. We've already been exchanging information, conversation. It is so cool. None of that would have happened if we didn't have that kind of wanting to connect with people, right? Mike could have even just said, "Oh, Casey, yeah," and then just like went to his friends, and that would have been fine, but we wouldn't have had that connection with people. And so now we have this friendship, and in that 15 minutes, it was good conversation. So this unconditional, it's a lot easier to have with strangers, with people that aren't really don't know us, with people that we haven't had a lot of experience with. But those are the opportunities that we get to kind of start living into a more loving being, a more loving heart, a more accepting heart. And then we can be working with the people that are closest to us and being able to forgive other people and all of that kind of thing. But if you feel like there is nobody around you to show love to or that loves you, I would recommend going the agape route and maybe volunteering more, um, having these conversations when you're out for a walk, making eye contact, smiling, like being kind with people that you're interacting with, because then you're going to be opening up your nervous system that says, hey, it's okay to be loved. It's okay to love. And then we're going to be able to like accept love from other people. We just might have to baby step into it. So it's a big way of saying that no matter what, and tomorrow I want to talk about like what your feelings are around love, because I have had friendships stop because they didn't like the fact that I was saying I love you to everybody. They're like, I won't say it. That's weird. Like, I don't know why you always have to do that. And it's like I've stopped friendships, or they've stopped friendships with me, which makes you question whether or not it's acceptable to do. And I will say all the time, love will always win out. We need to be more kind and loving to people. Um, and then, okay, so then they were talking about these other ones. We talked about the family. And then there is also, I can't pronounce the Latin word for it, but self-love. And so the self-love, I think, is one of the hardest things for us to do, but also the biggest opportunities for us to be able to start realizing that we're worthy of that love and kind of start reprogramming our subconscious, our nervous system to be able to accept love. And when people are trying to be kind to us, listen to the narrative that you're saying to yourself about what they're sharing with you. When somebody is showing you love, what are you saying or what are you thinking? Right? Like, are you thinking, I've gone through and I'm still working on it, that a lot of the time I feel like people are being friends with me because they feel bad for me. And I'm getting down to the bottom of it to figure out where this originated. I know it originated when I was a kid, so I'm working on it. It is difficult. It's difficult for me to kind of get over, but I'm working on it. We all have our things, but we need to start listening to what this narrative is, so then we can break it down and say, "You know what? That's just not true. That's just not true anymore. It never was, but there's no reason why I need to believe it now." Right? So, that's just another kind of tip that when we're not feeling loved, and I'm hoping that you guys can hear me because I'm realizing there's no comments either. So I'm hoping this is all okay. But um, us showing strangers, like the person that's going to be, your grocery, the person that's bagging your groceries, or the person when you go get a lottery ticket that's giving you the lottery ticket, or you know, the person that you're going to pay for your gas, whoever it is, showing them love and compassion and kindness opens up the gates of being able to be more loving and accepting love. And then self love is another huge, huge step, but just little pieces helps. And we've talked about it all the time that like when we keep our promise to ourselves, make little promises to yourself and then keep them. And that just chips away and gets us a little bit more confident and tells ourselves that we can trust ourselves again, you know? And then we're able to, all of these steps are kind of like making us stronger in our love to be able to share it and then accept it with other people. So I do want to keep these ones shorter. I was saying that I want these ones to be, between 20 minutes and 30. And that is where we are. So we're at like 26 minutes. So I am going to wrap it up right now. I'm really hoping that you guys could hear me. I'm hoping the audio was okay. It said it was. I checked my settings. So we'll see. And then I hope that you come back tomorrow. If you are celebrating Valentine's Day, I hope that you have a lovely evening. And if you want to come and celebrate it with me and be live tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern time, so it's every Wednesday night, I would love to see you either, whether you come to YouTube or Facebook or Twitch, wherever you want to check us out. I would love for you to be there. And tell your friends, bring them along too. The conversation, if you know people that really like to be heard and they don't feel like they're being heard, this is a great opportunity for them to be heard, because I love the conversation that happens in these shows. So I love you guys so, so much. I hope that you have a wonderful, wonderful evening. And also, hi to everybody that's watching in First Day Pod. I should have said that in the very beginning. We are going to be doing an extra podcast. I think this weekend, Mike and I are going to do another episode. So check out for that. And then we'll see you on Wednesday. I love you. Bye.